What's going on, everyone? Bobster1984 back again. I'm going to do a video which is the start of a new series. It's going to be a Premier League prediction series. So I'm going to do these every Friday, and I'm going to be running through all the Premier League games upcoming for each weekend. So kick things off. The first game is Liverpool away to Spurs. Now this is Jurgen Klopp's first game in charge of Liverpool. Now, Jurgen Klopp is a manager who I thought was obviously always going to be sought after. Such everyone thought he was going to be sought after. I was a little bit surprised, to be fair, I have to be honest, that he went to Liverpool. Now, let me explain my reasonings before I get loads of Liverpool fans giving us grief, blah, blah, blah. Liverpool have not been a very good football club in the past couple of seasons. We're talking about so far this season, and we're talking about last season, and that's mainly due to losing so many good players, because not every club could survive losing players such as the quality of Suarez, Gerrard. Obviously, I know he was old, but he still provided a bit of steel in that midfield, should you say, with the odd slip up. But yeah, I mean, if you're a club and you're losing Suarez, you're going to struggle. It's as simple as that. The bloke was world class, as much as nobody wants to admit it, because he's a total and utter bell end. So first game for Jurgen Klopp away to Spurs. It's a tough one because Spurs are a really, really strange side. I watched them a lot so far this season. Just so happens to have been on a lot. I've not been very impressed by them. And then smashed Man City 4-1 at home the other week, and they played so well, and you just think to yourself, Spurs are like a proper Jekyll and Hyde side. But anyway, going back to Jurgen Klopp, I mean, Bayern Munich, while he was there, I mean, he transformed them. I'm not saying transformed in terms of he did it was the equivalent of getting Hull into the Premier League sort of thing, because they're already an established big giant in Europe. But he turned them into like a genuine challenger to Bayern Munich, because Bayern Munich, let's face it, are the Man United and the Real Madrid, Barcelona of the Bundesliga, and Dortmund came along, and I remember, I think it was 95, 96 when they won. I thought got to the final of the Champions League. I can't remember. You always remember Dortmund being a big squad or a big side, but they didn't really do anything for years. And then Jurgen Klopp changed that. Looked at all the youngsters that they brought through, which have all, funnily enough, gone to Bayern, such as Goetze, Lewandowski. But they've still, they did well in every season. Obviously, got the Champions League final in 2013 at Wembley, and it was only last season where it was quite poor. But obviously he decided to go on his sabbatical. But no, everyone knew that wasn't going to last very long, and he's now at Liverpool thanks to Rodgers getting the push. So the first game, I mean, it's a tough one, because you want to think that Liverpool are going to start off fast paced, try and go for the jugular, first manager and everything. But nobody really knows how he's gonna do anything with Liverpool, how he's gonna line up. I actually believe it'll probably be a draw. To be fair, might be a 1-1 or a 2-2 or something. I think it'll be a score draw. As I say, Spurs are a complete Jekyll and Hyde, and I don't know what else to say for Spurs. I think a lot of people would agree. Don't know whether Spurs fans would agree. Would you agree? Leave some comments, let us know. Next game is Chelsea at home to Aston Villa. Now, Chelsea, I mean, where do you start with them? Mourinho, for me, he is a legend in terms of his tactical ability, but he's been found wanting a lot this season so far. And Chelsea are playing very mediocre football. And if you watched my videos a couple of weeks ago when Newcastle United, my team, drew with Chelsea, we were 2-0 up and we should have won the game. We seem to have had this presence at home to Chelsea where we do quite well. But to see Chelsea play so poorly, and they played really poorly in the last game against Southampton, they got beat 3-1 at home. And Villa are fighting for their lives again. I mean, does anyone really have the confidence or the balls to put money on Chelsea at the minute? Do you really? Does anyone really have the balls to do that? suppose you've got to, because they're playing at home. But I mean, that doesn't mean anything anymore. But I am going to go for a Chelsea win. I think Aston Villa have been pretty poor this season. I know Sherwood's come out and said, "Oh, this is going to be a season of change and stuff." So he's told their own fans to not expect much. If I'm a Villa fan and I'm hearing that, I'm worried. What do you think, Villa fans? Next game is Crystal Palace at home to West Ham United. So Alan Pardew, Newcastle United's ex-manager, welcomes one of his former teams. I mean, Crystal Palace are doing fantastically, to be honest. They are. And fair play to Alan Pardew, right? And a lot of people in Newcastle seem to have got this vendetta against him. I will be brutally honest. I don't think he deserves to get away scot-free from any criticism from his time at Newcastle. But we're not talking about his time at Newcastle. We're talking about his time at Palace, and it's been nothing short of miraculous, to be honest. I have to be brutally honest and admit that he's been a breath of fresh air. I mean, he's got some really good players at his disposal, but I have to be honest. But like players like Balassi, I didn't really take note of until Pardew went there. To be brutally honest, heard them, seen them play on Match of the Day or whatever, but didn't notice them as genuine contenders to be in, say, players that were going to get like a big move or a good 20 million move. You didn't think about Yannick Balassi. Now we are. West Ham, a very strange team. They've been very mediocre at home. I know they beat Newcastle, but who hasn't this season? But away from home, they just seem to be something else. I mean, they were getting beat 2-0 against the Mackhams the other week. Obviously, Advocates' last game. And they come back, and I know Sunderland had a player sent off, but they come back and they could have won it. And there seems to be this away form, never say die attitude with West Ham at the minute. And for that game, I'm going to have to go for a draw, because I know Palace are quite strong at home. Johan Kabai's got them playing really well, but I mean, Johan Kabai's a really good player. He is, and he seems to be, he's the engine. He's the creativity in midfield. But West Ham have just got something about them where they're just so hard to beat. So I'm going to go for a draw. Everton and Man United is the next game. Now, it's always a weird one, Everton and Man United, because there always seems to be goals. It's always got that aura about it because it's Rooney going back to Everton every year. But Everton they've not really set the world on fire this season. And they're plodding along, they're doing mediocre. I'm not saying they're doing crap, but and Man United, they're second in the league, but they haven't done anything. You know what I mean? They haven't. It's scary when a team like Man United can get to second in the league after last season, especially, when the season before, with Moyes, and get to second in the league without really putting in a performance. I mean, again, if you've watched my videos, you'll know I'm not the biggest fan of Manchester United. But credit where credit's due. If you grind out results, you're going to get somewhere. I believe Man United will win it, and I'm going to go for a 2-1 win. The next game is Manchester City at home to Bournemouth. Now, Man City obviously walloped my team, but a lot of people will be thinking, well, they walloped Newcastle. This could be a cricket score against Bournemouth. And that's disrespectful to Bournemouth. Bournemouth have played some really good football this year. They've played better football than Newcastle. They're higher in the table than Newcastle. They're doing much better than Newcastle are at this moment in time. So I think they deserve a bit more credit than what I've seen a lot of people say. Man City are without Aguero and David Silva, I believe. I'm gonna go for a City win, but I'm gonna go for it's gonna be a close City win. It's gonna be nothing more than 2-1, 3-1 maybe, not a thrashing. I think Bournemouth will go there and give a really good account of themselves, and fair play, because they've been fantastic, and they're like the reminders of Burnley last year to an extent, and Blackpool when they came up in 10-11, because Blackpool just had this never say die attitude, and I think Bournemouth have got a similar kind of thing. Next is Southampton at home to Leicester. Now, here's one, right? In the pre-season, everyone would have probably looked at a fixture like that and said, Southampton, easy home win. Claudio Ranieri, just like everybody, I thought was going to be a joke in terms of, he's not going to do anything compared to what Nigel Pearson was doing towards the back end of last season. And here he is. I mean, he's got Leicester playing some fantastic football. They've got that mentality, the classic Newcastle 90s entertainers mentality of if they score 3, we'll score 4. And they never know when they're beaten. And how can you, if you're a gambling man, how can you put money on Leicester not getting something from a game? And Southampton have hit a bit of form after a rough start to the season. Obviously, they went out in Europe before it even got started. I'm going to have to go for a draw, purely because of the way Leicester play and the never say die attitude. The next game is obviously one I've got some great interest in. It's West Brom versus Sunderland. Now, this is Sam Allardyce's first game in charge for Sunderland. Now, as a Newcastle fan, I've got experience of watching the football that Sam Allardyce plays, and it's not very good. It's poor. It's long ball, boring football. But everyone said that, so I don't need to get into that too much. I think he is probably going to be a breath of fresh air for Sunderland, and it does pain us to say that, obviously being a Newcastle fan, but we're doing this to try and give the best no bullshit, honest opinions on everything. So I do believe Sunderland will probably get something. Me heart says it'll be a 1-1 draw or a draw, but my head says I can see them getting the 3 points. West Brom have been a funny old side this year. I mean, they've, along with Newcastle, scored the least goals in the Premier League. I think the whole thing with Saido Berahino has hurt them. Pulis doesn't seem to be able to get what he normally can from his squads from them at the minute, and I do believe it'll be a win for Sunderland, unfortunately. It pains us to say that, especially a week before the fucking derby. And next is the Saturday night kick-off on Sky Sports, which is Watford at home to Arsenal. Now, Watford have been another one of these sides that come up last year, and they've been another breath of fresh air. They're just, again, one of those sides that just doesn't know when to say no, when to give up or whatever. They don't know when they're beaten. And Arsenal, like I said about Spurs, Jekyll and Hyde, you're talking about the ultimate Jekyll and Hyde side. Yeah, sometimes they can be absolutely amazing to watch. They're literally carving teams open at will, and then the next game you'll watch them and they'll be shit. They'll struggle. So I'm going to have to go for an Arsenal win, but it's going to be a hard fought one. It's going to be either a 1-0 or a 2-1. As I say, I've seen Watford firsthand. They've already come to St James's and beaten us. I watched them against Palace the other week, where they were unfortunate and got beat by a penalty. So it is going to have to be an Arsenal win, I'm afraid, for any Watford fans. I'm not going to do Newcastle's game because there will be a separate video on that as per for my Newcastle series. So the last game on this video will be Swansea, which is the Monday night kickoff at home to Stoke. Now, Stoke, with all these signings from Barcelona in the summer, Sheridan Shaqiri, a great player. They had a slow start, but they seem to have picked up a bit of form. Swansea have gone the other way, started off really well, but they seem to have hit a bit of a dip. So I can see this being a draw, but I can see it being an entertaining draw. Gomez has got a few goals, and I think with Stoke, obviously they can score for a variety, because obviously I know Peter Crouch isn't getting used, but he could come on. And it's going to be one of those games where it might just surprise you. Because you get a lot of games in the Premier League where you think, get in, it's going to be, Liverpool, Tottenham, it's going to be, 4-goal thriller. And it ends up being boring 0-0. You find that the games like Swansea City and Stoke City will be the best games. But anyway, so this is the first video about these Premier League predictions, and this is purely just, like I say, giving my thoughts on what's happening in the Premier League and what is going to happen over the weekend. So yeah, the computer's just gone off, and that is where I will wrap this video up. So if you like the video, please like the video and hit that like button and subscribe for future videos. And as I say, there'll be plenty more FIFA, plenty more Newcastle videos, plenty more me rambling and moaning, because that's what I am. I'm a rambler and a moaner, and that's what happens when you're a Newcastle fan. Thanks very much, everybody. Bobster1984 signing off. See you later.